Good evening, brothers and sisters. Happy to be here with you once again. We almost caught up. Another 10 minutes on the subject that we must cover today, and to talk in depth, because we have to talk in depth about what happens in our community, what has happened to our leaders. So here we are. We're catching up and speaking in depth on these things, and it matters to us. It is the utmost important to us, because if we can't talk about where we're going, or rather where we've come from, we'll never know where we're going. So it's important to us. These things are important. Now, brothers and sisters, don't take for granted that you and I have a job to do to support those of us that are out there, right, in the form of natural science. Listen, you're not going to get any money back going to your enemy to get those eyelashes and things of that nature, right, because you all go over to the agent stores. You could have your own stores. The amount of money that you spend, you can have your own stores. But you go to the agent stores and you make them rich. So today I want to go over with you briefly about who Alton Maddox is and how helpful he was to Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Alton Maddox is very important. He's a very important person in the entire scheme of things, in how Alton Maddox at the slave theater questioned Michael Muhammad. Alton Maddox had been very faithful to Dr. Khalid. He was a lawyer. It's important to remember. Also a minister, lawyer and a minister. So he had very much identification with Dr. Khalid on those levels. What Dr. Khalid understood, excuse me, brothers and sisters, Dr. Khalid understood moral law as it relates to having a job or a duty, and how that works in with how do we say it? Law in general. How it works in with law in general. So Dr. Khalid respect law. He respect lawyers, but he didn't respect de facto laws, right? Whether they be in legislation or whether in the minds of people, it's not something that he could respect. He didn't believe in people cowering down. And I think that's something important to remember too, is that Khalid, if there was a work to be done, a job to be done, he's going to do it. He's going to challenge the powers, right? In other words, it's almost like no taxation without representation. It's like, I will stand up as a representative of the black man, but I'm expecting you to stand behind me. So Dr. Khalid was really in a den of thieves. He was really in a den of thieves and a den of snakes. That's the best way to explain it. Alton Maddox was a strong help to Dr. Khalid. Brother Steve Coakley was a strong help to Dr. Khalid. I myself was a strong help to Dr. Khalid. Miss Coretta King, Sister Betty X, and the list is endless, because he made a good impression and was able to translate his duty as related to a black nationalist to the larger civil rights community, especially those that were earlier on in the community. But how many people know that birds of the same feather flock together, right? And if the person isn't a part of you, then it's as vivid as a lemon is in a bunch of oranges. It's a very vivid thing to see. Dr. Khalid let me say this first of all, had a big heart for the people. People knew that. He had a big heart for the people. This was no secret. To anybody that was in black nationalism, no matter how tough he spoke, he had a big heart for the people that were in nationalism. And anytime somebody wanted to come and help do some work in nationalism, Dr. Khalid would always let them come and help. But the thing that we have to understand, or need to understand at this point, is that Dr. Khalid was, in many senses, standing alone in the concept that a fighter for nationalism, a fighter for freedom, fighter for justice, fighter for liberation. And in his tenure of that position, he understood that he would stand alone, because prior to him, and with the exception of Minister Malcolm, with the exception of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and those that it relates. The other human rights leaders wasn't talking like that. They weren't talking like that. They weren't talking about making sacrifices for your people. That was the last thing on their mind. They had an agenda, and they had a certain formula, right? A certain algorithm for assassination or betrayal. The white man says, if you're with me, I give you money, I give you fame, I give you plenty of camera attention. But I need you to do what I'm asking you to do. You got to understand that this is a blood contract, a blood sacrifice. Same way that there was a blood sacrifice with Minister Malcolm X and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because they were both following the will of Allah, following the job, weathering the storm to do justice, love mercy, walk humbly, to walk righteous. Right? They killed them both because why? Because at every juncture they were understanding who the enemy was. Dr. Khalid understood who the enemy was, but the individuals working around him, with the exception of myself, Steve Cope, and the older civil rights community, the others, the new ones coming from the streets or the street nuances, didn't understand what liberation was. They didn't understand any of that. And proof of which I can tell you that many of the rappers, when they started to understand that Dr. Khalid was serious, a lot of the black actresses and actors and all of these black professionals, they started to understand that Dr. Khalid was serious, they began to pull away from him. Now, there was already a great falling away when Minister Farrakhan forced him out of the Nation of Islam through shrewd religious and political strategism. That Dr. Khalid is out there and he has no connection with his base. He has a connection on some scale, but not on a large scale. He didn't have a connection with his base because his base was the system of the Nation of Islam. And the one that he honored had turned on him. Farrakhan is in the middle of Dr. Khalid's ousting. He's in the middle of Minister Malcolm ousting. There's another few brothers. The death of Jeremiah 33X, who was shot in front of the temple. There's Benjamin Goodman X, Benjamin 2X Goodman. He was also found to be a lawyer with the Nation of Islam movement and also the federal government. So he was an agent. So when with all of this in mind and this history, because I'm laying down the foundation for you, Attorney Alton Maddox began to question Malik Zulu Shabazz, Hashim Nzinga, and began to question our brother Michael Muhammad, and they couldn't give an acceptable answer concerning the assassination of Dr. Khalid. So this became very problematic. It became very, very problematic, and that's often the case. In an assassination attempt, you'll find out, and the assassination fulfillment, you'll find out that the end never justified the means, that there's a lot of holes in the cracks of the story that the people that are telling it to justify. In the assassination of Dr. King, Billy Cowles and Jesse Jackson couldn't get their lie straight. Billy Cowles, in one film that was played at the Center for Nonviolent Social Change of Miss Coretta Scott King, Billy Cowles, they rewind a VHS where he had admitted that he had to get out of the way for them to have a clean shot at Dr. King. These are not mistakes that you make. But this is God's way of letting you know that every black leader that has been taken down with your help. Brothers and sisters, we got to stop helping the enemy destroy ourselves. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop helping the enemy destroy us. I hope you're praying with me, brothers and sisters. Because we need to be steadfast, unmovable, and always abounding in righteousness. That's what you and I are called to do. We're called to do that. But we can't do it if we're betraying and killing our leaders. We can't do it. Only a fool would kill his army. Only a fool would allow his army to be made. Is that right or wrong? So we gotta have requirements. We gotta make oath to ourselves. Gotta make sure that our leaders are protected. Nothing like a father being taken away from his children, or a mother being taken away from her children. The worst thing to see in the world. But it will stay that way. It will continue until the day that we stand up and rise to do differently as a people. We've got to do better. We've got to do better, brothers and sisters. God is turning this planet over to us, and we have to live a righteous lifestyle. We have to be different so that when they see us, they'll ask the question, what must I do to become righteous? I want to be like you. What do I need to do? God has sent us here to save the black man. That's what the message of the black man is. God has sent us to save the black man from utter destruction of his white enemy. Well, he is your enemy, brothers and sisters. It's your enemy that brought you here. It's your enemy that caught you in Africa and chained you up. It's your enemy that came out of the caves and began to kill you like animals and eat you. That's an enemy. That's not a friend. It's your enemy that killed the pregnant mothers by stabbing their bellies through with swords. An enemy done that. It's not your friend. This is your enemy. And the minute that you understand what the enemy is, then you'll do something to protect yourself. But you have to understand who the enemy is and what the enemy is. What that is to you. So the homework has to be done. We have to research our past, because Alton Maddox didn't get those answers. Malik Zulu Shabazz is still around, but he has no focus. When you see him, he's confused. What is his actual job? What was he hired to do? And if so, why aren't we any further than we could have been? I mean, the Black Panther Party can't do anything if it's not raising up the intentions to build up the community. If it's not building up the community, is nothing that it could do to perform an administration of aggression financially. If you're not building your schools, your banks, your houses, grocery stores, you're not advancing toward independence. We have to go back in our communities and build up our communities. Dr. Khaled was on his way to do that, to build up the black community. He was stopped because he had a plan and focus that followed the plan and focus of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because Louis Farrakhan is not building up anything, brothers and sisters. It's sad but true. Sad but true. He's not building up anything. So we got to get wiser. We've got to get stronger. We got to get better and better. You and I have to do this today. Brothers and sisters, don't forget, we have Prince Imhotep University, and you can attend there if you want online at your own pace. But we do have it, and we pray, our desire and our prayer is that you would see it and see something on there that you would like to take. Just remember that you're always supporting the program of what we have going on. And then also, brothers and sisters, we have the African Center Psychiatry and Medicine. And African Center Psychiatry and Medicine, you'll be able to get fresh medicines, be able to get fresh and herbal medicines, organic, be able to do the will of what you should be doing today, right? And that's building ourselves up, building up our nature. Is that right or wrong? Because we need it. We have to build up our nature. We need it. We need to build up our nature, build up who we are as people. So keep that in mind as the time winds down. Also, last thing I want to tell you is that we have holistic practice and products that needs to be talked about too. You need to make these purchases, and a lot of the dollars that you yield will be able to do some mighty things in our community. Brothers and sisters, bless you. I love you. If I didn't tell you before, I just want you to know now that I do love you. And what I tell you again is love talk. If I hate you, I wouldn't tell you. If I hated you, I wouldn't tell you. I love you, so I tell you because I love you. We've got to get wise to learn to love one another. Just because a person disagrees with you, don't mean that they hate you. And we've got to learn how to disagree with and not be violently disagreeable. We've got to learn that amongst one another. And if I'm wrong about what I'm saying and some of the facts, then I pray, and my desire, my prayer, that someone will come so we can sit down and talk about this and learn the actual way. But when you come with the answers. Come with something. Don't come with that old jive. I want you to come with something. And I love you, brothers and sisters. Parents, I want you all to love one another. Love one another. We can't fight against one another and then call ourselves conscious. But we're doing exactly what the white man wants us to do. We got to do different. You and I have to do different. And so God has called us to come together and produce, right? God has called us to come together and produce. We've got to stop being distracted about Sean Combs. Stop being distracted by Terrence Howard now, who's wearing a female wig. I don't know what's going on there. But I do know it's walking a tightrope. I know it's walking a tightrope, but I don't know exactly what's going on. So I won't touch it. But we got to be able to do things without effeminizing ourselves, brothers and sisters. Stand up as men and women of God. Men and women of God, we've got to stand up and we've got to do the will of God. Is that right or wrong? And if we do the will of God and we put our hands in God's hand, God won't let us go. If the same mind that's in us is in God, God won't let us go because we'll be on the same sheet of music. You understand what I'm saying? So we got to stand, we got to be steadfast, we got to be unmovable, and always abounding in the work of God, which is found, right, in the example of Jesus. Isn't that right? What did Jesus do? Sacrifice his life. Right? Not white Jesus, black Jesus. Because he came. He knew his mission when he came. Is that right or wrong? Brothers and sisters, love one another. Mothers and fathers, love your children. Children, love your mother and father. Mother and father, love each other. I love you, brothers and sisters. And what I give you is talk of love. Talks of love. If it was hate, I wouldn't give it to you. If I say unto you, peace be unto you. If I didn't say it in the beginning, assalamu alaikum.